The word parents settled over them like a warm blanket. Taeyang squeezed Lyra's hand. The doctors say you 2 years passed like a dream Lyra was afraid to wake from. She grew taller, stronger, and more confident. The scared, broken child who had hidden in a docking bay was gone. In her place was a young woman who knew her worth. The Interspecies Council finally announced its decision. Taeyang could formally adopt Lyra, but she would make a final choice when she reached Velari adulthood at 16. Until then, she would remain under observation, living with Taeyang and continuing her education. It's not perfect, Jiwan Li told them over a video call, but it's the best outcome we could have hoped for. You've won, Taeyang. Lyra gets to stay. Lyra, now 13 in human years, sat beside Taeyang during the call. She had mixed feelings about the decision. Relief that she could stay, but also a strange weight about the choice waiting 3 years in the future. What are you thinking? Taeyang asked after the call ended. I'm thinking about what happens when I turn 16, Lyra admitted. What if I make the wrong choice? There's no wrong choice. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. But the question haunted her as life continued. She threw herself into her studies, excelling in every subject. Her teachers praised her constantly. Minji's physical therapy had worked wonders. Lyra could now run, climb, and even spar in basic self-defense classes. She would never be a Velari warrior, but she was healthy and capable. More importantly, she was happy. She had friends now. Her classmate Sora Im was her closest companion. Sora was fascinated by alien cultures and technology, and the two girls spent hours together working on projects and sharing ideas. You're lucky, Sora told her one day as they worked on a complex engineering model. You get to see both human and Velari perspectives. That's rare. Sometimes I don't know which one I am, Lyra confessed. I look Velari, but I think like a human now. I feel human. Maybe you're both, or maybe you're just Lyra and that's enough. The wisdom surprised Lyra. Maybe Sora was right. Maybe she didn't need to fit perfectly into either category. When Lyra was 14, something unexpected happened. Elder Korra, the Velari reform leader, requested a meeting. Not a video call this time, but an in-person visit to New Haven. Korra was not what Lyra expected. She was older with scars from a long life of combat, but her eyes held kindness that seemed impossible for a Velari. She greeted Lyra with respect rather than the disdain Lyra remembered from her own family. You've become quite famous among my people, Korra said as they sat in a private meeting room. Taeyang and Nari stood nearby, protective but allowing the conversation. Your story has inspired many to question our traditions. I didn't mean to cause trouble, Lyra said carefully. Trouble? Korra smiled. Child, you've caused a revolution. Families are coming forward with children they had hidden. Young Velari who don't fit our traditional molds are finding their voices. You showed them that different doesn't mean worthless. I just wanted to survive. And in surviving, you changed everything. Korra leaned forward. Lyra, I have a proposal for you. When you reach 16 and make your choice, I want you to consider returning to Velari space. Not as a rejection of your human family, but as an ambassador of change. Lyra's heart skipped. Return? But my family, your birth family has been officially disgraced. They abandoned you and you became a hero. Their shame is complete. Korra's expression hardened. But there are hundreds of other families making the same choice they did. Hiding children, abandoning them, condemning them to death. I'm trying to change our laws, our culture. But I need symbols. I need proof that Velari who are different can thrive. You want to use her, Taeyang said, his voice cold. I want to save others like her, Korra corrected. Lyra, you could help rewrite Velari law. You could ensure no child suffers what you suffered. But I understand if you refuse. You owe us nothing. The offer sat heavily in the room. Lyra looked at Taeyang, seeing the conflict in his eyes. He wanted her to stay, she could tell. But he would never say it. He would never pressure her. I need to think about this, Lyra said finally. Of course. You have time, Korra stood. Whatever you choose, know that you've already done more for our people than most warriors accomplish in a lifetime. You've shown us that strength comes in many forms. After Korra left, Taeyang took Lyra to their favorite spot, a hill overlooking New Haven's main city. They sat in the grass watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that still amazed Lyra. Do you want to go? Taeyang asked quietly. To Velari space? Part of me does, Lyra admitted. If I could help other children like me, shouldn't I? Isn't that the right thing to do? The right thing isn't always the thing that makes you happy. You've spent your whole life being told you owe everyone something. You don't, Lyra. You get to be selfish sometimes. You get to choose what makes you happy. But what if I could make a real difference? You already make a difference. Every day. To me, to Nari, to your friends. You don't have to save the entire Velari species to matter. Lyra leaned against him, this human who had become her father in every way that counted. I don't know what I want. Then take your time to figure it out. You have 2 years before you have to decide. Those 2 years passed faster than Lyra wanted. She continued her studies with a human teacher named Jinwoo Han, who recognized her exceptional abilities and pushed her to reach her full potential. You should apply to the Interstellar Academy, Jinwoo told her during one session. It's the most prestigious school in Earth space. You'd excel there. The Interstellar Academy. Lyra had heard of it, a place where the brightest students from all species studied together, learning advanced sciences, diplomacy, and leadership. It was a dream opportunity, but it was also on Earth, far from both Velari space and New Haven. Accepting would mean leaving Taeyang and Nari for months at a time. I'll think about it, Lyra said, though her heart already knew what she wanted. When the acceptance letter arrived months later, Lyra held it with shaking hands. She had been admitted on full scholarship. They wanted her. Taeyang found her sitting in her room staring at the letter. Good news or bad news? I got in. To the academy. He sat beside her. That's amazing, Lyra, you should be proud. But it means leaving. Leaving you and Nari. Leaving home. Home will always be here, and we'll visit. Besides, you'll be too busy with classes to miss us much. That's not true. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. You saved my life, Taeyang. You and Nari gave me everything. How can I just leave? By living the life we hoped you'd have. By becoming everything you're capable of being. He put his arm around her shoulders. Parents are supposed to raise their kids to leave, Lyra. It's hard, but it means we did our job right. You're really my father now, Lyra said. Not legally yet, but in here. She touched her chest. You're my dad. Taeyang's eyes went bright with emotion. And you're my daughter. No matter where you go or what you choose, that doesn't change. The decision became clearer. Lyra would attend the Interstellar Academy. She would accept Elder Korra's invitation to work with the reform movement during breaks, and she would return to New Haven as often as possible. She didn't have to choose between being Velari and being human. She could forge something new, her own identity, built from both worlds and belonging entirely to herself. When Lyra turned 16, the Interspecies Council reconvened for her final decision. The chamber was packed with observers. Coordinator Thex was there, still bitter. Elder Korra sat in the Velari delegation, hopeful. Taeyang, Nari, Jiwon, Minji, and Jinwoo all attended to support her. Doyon Song's cameras captured everything. This moment would be broadcast across the galaxy. The lead counselor called Lyra forward. You have reached the age of majority under Velari law. You must now make your choice. Will you claim Velari citizenship and return to your people? Or will you choose Earth citizenship and remain with Taeyang Kim? Lyra stood tall, no longer the frightened child who had once cowered in a docking bay. She looked at Coordinator Thex at the Velari delegation and felt nothing. No attachment, no loyalty. Then she looked at Taeyang and felt everything. Love, gratitude, belonging, I choose Earth citizenship, Lyra said clearly. Taeyang Kim is my father. New Haven is my home. I am human by choice, even if not by birth. Thex stood angrily. This is a rejection of your heritage. My heritage rejected me first, Lyra interrupted. I'm not choosing against Velari. I'm choosing for myself, for the family who wanted me, for the life I've built, the counselor nodded. Then it is decided. Lyra will be granted Earth citizenship and the adoption will be finalized. But Lyra wasn't finished. However, I also accept Elder Korra's invitation to serve as a liaison between Earth and the Velari reform movement. I want to help change the culture that hurt me so other children don't suffer. Elder Korra smiled with pride. We would be honored. After the hearing, reporters swarmed. Lyra gave a short statement. I'm grateful to the Velari reform movement for trying to make change, but my loyalty is to the ones who saved me when no one else would. That's what family means, showing up when it matters. The formal adoption ceremony took place a week later. Small, private, with just close friends and family. Taeyang signed the documents that made Lyra officially his daughter. Lyra signed her new name, Lyra Kim. How does it feel? Nari asked, hugging her. It feels gyoam. 3 months after the council hearing, Lyra stood in a medical office on New Haven, nervous and uncomfortable. A human doctor named Minji Kwan examined her with gentle hands and kind eyes. Your muscle development is different from typical Valari physiology, Minji explained, studying the scan results. But it's not a disease or defect. It's a genetic variation. With proper physical therapy tailored to your specific needs, you can build strength, just differently than your people expected. Really? Lyra asked. I can get stronger? Absolutely. You'll never match a typical Valari warrior in pure combat strength. But you don't need to. Your body is yours, Lyra. We'll work with what you have and make you as healthy as possible. Minji smiled. I've already designed a program for you. We'll start slowly and build up. It was the first time anyone had treated Lyra's condition as something manageable, rather than shameful. She left the medical center feeling lighter than she had in years. Meanwhile, Taeyang faced his own challenges. Coordinator Thex had questioned his fitness as a guardian, pointing out his dangerous profession and nomadic lifestyle. To prove stability, Taeyang made a decision that broke Lyra's heart. I'm taking a position at the trading post, he told her and Nari one evening. Ground-based work, managing logistics and cargo contracts. But you love flying, Lyra said, guilt crushing her chest. You're giving up the Morning Star because of me. I'm not giving up anything, Taeyang said firmly. I'm choosing what matters most. And that's you, Lyra. Ships can wait. You can't, Nari crossed her arms. And what about me? You think I'm letting you sacrifice alone? She turned to Lyra. I'm restructuring our business. I'll handle the cargo runs while Taeyang manages groundside. We're partners. We figure things out together. But no buts, Nari interrupted. You're family now. Family doesn't abandon each other when things get hard. We've got this. Lyra tried to hold back tears, but they came anyway. These humans kept showing her what family actually meant, and it was nothing like what she had known before. Life settled into a new routine.
Taeyang worked at the trading post during the day, while Lyra attended remote learning classes.
She absorbed information at an incredible rate, impressing her teachers with her aptitude for engineering and mathematics. In the afternoons, she went to physical therapy with Minji. The exercises were hard. Her muscles burned and trembled. But Minji never pushed her beyond her limits, never made her feel ashamed when she struggled. Slowly, gradually, Lyra grew stronger. Not Valari warrior strong, but stronger than she had ever been. Evenings were Lyra's favorite time. Taeyang would come home and they would have dinner together. A real family meal. Sometimes Nari joined them between cargo runs. They would talk about their days, laugh at jokes, and Lyra would help Taeyang with paperwork while practicing her reading skills. You're getting really good at human standard, Taeyang said one night, reviewing a supply manifest she had translated. This is perfect. Nari taught me well, Lyra said. And I like learning. She searched for the word. Satisfying. You should consider continuing your education seriously, Taeyang said. Maybe even apply to advanced programs when you're older. You're too smart to waste that potential. The idea thrilled and terrified her. Advanced education meant purpose, meant being valued for her mind. But it also meant expectations she might fail to meet. 6 months into their new life, everything changed in a single afternoon. Taeyang was at the trading post when the alarms blared. His communicator crackled with panic. Bomb threat. Multiple devices planted in the building. Evacuate immediately. Outside, chaos reigned. People ran in all directions. Security forces tried to establish a perimeter. Taeyang searched desperately for his staff, making sure everyone got out. There are still people on the 3rd floor, someone shouted. The stairwell collapsed. Taeyang started toward the building, but a security officer grabbed him. Sir, you can't go in there. It's too dangerous. My people are in there. Meanwhile, Lyra was in her remote learning class when she heard the news. The trading post, Taeyang's trading post, was under attack. She disconnected from class and ran toward the building, her heart pounding. When she arrived, she saw the smoke, the panicked crowds, and Taeyang arguing with security. Then she saw something else, a pattern in how the charges were placed. She had studied explosive devices in her engineering classes, understanding how they worked. These weren't set to cause maximum casualties. They were placed to destroy the building's structure. But there was a main control device. There had to be. Whoever planted these charges would want a single trigger point, Lyra slipped past the security perimeter while everyone was focused on the main entrance. She knew this building. She had been here countless times. There was a maintenance entrance on the side that might still be accessible. Inside, the smoke made it hard to see. Alarm shrieked. Lyra pulled her shirt over her mouth and moved quickly, thinking through the building's layout. If she were planting a main control, where would she put it? Somewhere central. Somewhere with access to the building's systems. The utility room. Second floor, center of the building. She climbed the emergency ladder, her arms shaking with effort. Minji's physical therapy paid off. Months ago, she couldn't have made this climb. The second floor hallway was filling with smoke. She dropped low, remembering fire safety lessons, and crawled toward the utility room. The door was locked. Lyra pulled a maintenance tool from her pocket. Nari had taught her to always carry basic tools. She jimmied the lock, hands shaking, and got inside. There it was. A sophisticated device connected to the building's electrical system, with a timer counting down. 15 minutes. Not much time. Lyra's training kicked in. She examined the device, identifying its components. It was Velari technology. She recognized the design immediately. A pulse of anger went through her. Of course it was. Coordinator Thex had promised consequences, but knowing the technology meant knowing its weaknesses. Lyra pulled out her tools and began carefully disconnecting wires. Blue before red. Never cut the green line. Bypass the secondary circuit. Her hands were steady despite her fear. This was just a puzzle, like the ones Nari gave her in the engine room. Just more important. 5 minutes left. She rerouted the power flow, isolating the detonator from its charge. The timer kept counting, but now it was harmless. The other devices throughout the building would be receiving a disarm signal through the building's electrical grid. 2 minutes left. Lyra connected the final bypass and held her breath. The timer stopped. Red lights turned green. Silence replaced the beeping countdown. She had done it. The relief lasted only a second before smoke inhalation hit her. The room spun. Lyra tried to stand, but her legs gave out. The smoke was too thick now. She couldn't find the door. Lyra! A voice cut through the haze. Taeyang burst into the room, a wet cloth over his face. He had somehow gotten past security and found her. He scooped her up like she weighed nothing and ran for the emergency exit. Outside, fresh air filled Lyra's lungs. She coughed violently while medics rushed over. Taeyang refused to let her go even as they tried to examine her. "What were you thinking?" he demanded, fear making his voice sharp. "You could have died." "People were trapped," Lyra croaked. "Third floor." "The timer." "There's no timer anymore," a security officer said, staring at a device scanner. "The main detonator has been completely disabled. All secondary charges are offline." He looked at Lyra. "Did you do this?" Lyra nodded weakly. "A child disarmed a Velari military-grade explosive device?" The officer's disbelief was clear. "I studied the technology," Lyra explained. "I knew how it worked. The trapped workers on the third floor were rescued safely. The building was saved. And security footage of Lyra entering the building, disarming the device and nearly dying in the process went viral across the galactic networks within hours." Doyen Song's coverage this time was different. He showed a young Velari girl, supposedly weak and worthless, saving hundreds of lives with nothing but knowledge and courage. The footage ended with Taeyang carrying her to safety, the bond between them obvious to anyone watching. The contrast was stark. Velari extremists had planted the bombs to punish a human for taking a Velari child, and that same child had stopped them. Public opinion shifted dramatically. Comments flooded in from across the galaxy. "This is the child they called defective? She saved more lives than most warriors. Maybe the Velari should reconsider what strength really means." Even some Velari voices joined the conversation. Parents who had hidden their own children with disabilities began speaking out. A reform movement was growing and Lyra had become its symbol. In the hospital where Lyra was kept overnight for observation, she woke to find Taeyang asleep in a chair beside her bed. Nari sat on the other side reading something on her datapad. "Hey," Nari said softly. "You're awake. You scared us, kid. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry for saving lives, just maybe next time, tell someone before you run into a burning building." Taeyang stirred and opened his eyes. When he saw Lyra awake, his relief was obvious. "How do you feel?" "Tired, sore, but okay." He took her hand gently. "What you did was incredibly brave and incredibly dangerous. I'm proud of you and furious with you at the same time. That's what parents feel, Nari said with a slight smile. Get used to it. They had a hunter chasing them and a legal battle ahead. But for now, in this moment, the Earth colony of New Haven looked peaceful from orbit. Green land stretched below white clouds, and the cities glowed with soft lights. Lyra pressed her face to the viewport, amazed. She had never seen a world like this. Velari planets were built for training and warfare. Harsh, efficient, cold. Beautiful, isn't it? Taeyang said beside her. New Haven was one of the first colonies. They terraformed it to feel like Earth. It looks soft, Lyra said, then quickly added, I mean that in a good way. Taeyang smiled. I know what you mean. They docked at the main port, and Taeyang immediately went to the administrative building. Lyra stayed on the ship with Nari, too nervous to leave. What if Riva was already here? What if the authorities took her away? Stop worrying, Nari said, though her own hands were tense on her tools. Taeyang knows what he's doing. Hours passed. When Taeyang finally returned, his expression was grim. We have a problem. Administrator Hyun Park says that without formal guardianship papers, I have no legal right to keep you, Lyra. The process takes months, and Riva won't wait that long. So what do we do? Nari asked. There's one option. Taeyang looked directly at Lyra. I can file for formal adoption. It's faster than regular guardianship, and it would give me legal standing to protect you. But Lyra, you need to understand what that means. It would make you my daughter, legally. It would tie you to me in Earth law. Lyra's breath caught. You would do that? Adopt me? If you want me to. I know I'm not Velari. I know this isn't what you probably imagined for your life. But I meant what I said. I'm not giving up on you. The word daughter echoed in Lyra's mind. She had never been anyone's daughter, not really. She had been a mistake, a burden, a thing to be hidden away. But this human wanted to claim her as family. Yes, she whispered. Yes, please. Taeyang filed the papers that afternoon. Within hours, the news spread across the colony. A human trying to adopt an abandoned Velari child. By the next day, it had reached the Galactic news networks. A journalist named Doyun Song arrived at their docking bay 3 days later. He was young, energetic, and asked too many questions. This story is huge, he said, his camera drone hovering nearby. Human versus Velari culture. It's everything people want to read about. This isn't a story, Taeyang said coldly. This is a child's life. Exactly. That's what makes it so compelling. Can I interview Lyra? No. Just a few questions. I said no. Taeyang stepped between Doyun and Lyra. She's been through enough without being paraded around for ratings. But Doyun didn't need an interview. His coverage alone was enough to turn the case into a sensation. Within a week, the Velari government issued a formal protest. They demanded Lyra's return, claiming humans had no right to interfere with Velari cultural practices. The Interspecies Council called for a hearing. It would decide Lyra's fate. A lawyer named Jiwon Lee contacted Taeyang. I saw your case on the news. I specialize in interspecies law and I want to help. No charge. Why? Taeyang asked suspiciously. What's in it for you? Jiwon smiled. Call it justice. I've seen too many beings fall through the cracks of cultural differences. If we can set a precedent here, we can help others. Besides, I don't like bullies, and the Velari government is definitely bullying that little girl. They met in Jiwon's office. She was sharp, professional, and terrifyingly smart. She listened to everything, took notes, and then said, We have a strong case, but it won't be easy. The Velari will argue cultural sovereignty. We'll argue that basic rights supersede culture. What do I need to do? Taeyang asked. Be honest. Be yourself. And prepare Lyra. She might need to testify. Lyra had been sitting quietly in the corner. At those words, she looked up. Testify? In front of everyone? Possibly, Jiwon said gently. I know it's scary, but your voice is the most important one in this case. You're not property. You're a person, and you deserve to be heard. The hearing took place in a massive council chamber. Representatives from dozens of species sat in tiered seats. Lyra had never seen so many different kinds of beings in one place. At the center was a long table where Coordinator Thex sat, a high-ranking Velari diplomat with cold, calculating eyes. Jiwon presented the case first. She spoke clearly and passionately about rights, dignity, and the responsibility to protect vulnerable individuals. Lyra was abandoned, she said. Left to die on a station with no resources, no support. Taeyang Kim saved her life. The question before this council is simple. Do we value cultural tradition over the life of a child? Coordinator Thek stood to respond. His voice was deep and commanding. The humans misunderstand our ways. In Velari culture, difficult choices must be made for the good of the family, the clan, the species. Weak offspring drain resources. They dilute our genetic strength. Lyra's parents made a choice recognized by our laws. This human has stolen her, disrupted her fate, and interfered with Velari sovereignty. Stolen? Jiwon's voice rose. She was abandoned. How can you steal someone who was thrown away? She belongs to her birth family regardless of their decision. They have since reconsidered. They wish to place her in a proper facility. A facility? Taeyang stood up, unable to stay silent. You mean dump her on a colony world where no one knows her name? That's not family. That's erasure. Silence. Thex's eyes flashed. You are not recognized to speak in this council, human. The lead counselor, an elderly being from a neutral species, raised a hand. Taeyang Kim may speak. This concerns his petition. Taeyang took a breath. I'm not trying to disrespect Velari culture, but I can't respect any culture that treats children as disposable. Lyra is smart, kind, and brave. She deserves a chance at life. I'm offering her that chance, Thex scoffed. You offer her weakness. Human coddling. She will never be strong with you. Maybe not by Velari standards, Taeyang said, but she'll be loved. She'll be safe. She'll know her worth doesn't depend on how much she can lift or how hard she can fight. The council debated for hours. Lyra sat between Taeyang and Jiwon, feeling smaller with each passing minute. They were talking about her like she wasn't there, deciding her future without her input. Finally, the lead counselor turned to Lyra. Child, you have been silent. Do you wish to speak? Lyra's throat closed. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. In Velari culture, children didn't speak unless asked direct questions by their superiors. They certainly didn't speak in important councils. To do so would be presumptuous, proof of poor training. But Jiwon had said her voice mattered. Taeyang had said she deserved to be heard. Slowly, Lyra stood. Her legs shook. May I speak? You may, the counselor said. Lyra's voice cracked. She started over. I know I'm weak. By Velari standards, I'm defective. My muscles don't work right. I can't fight like others of my kind. For my whole life, I was told I was worthless, a burden. A mistake. Coordinator Thex watched her with disdain. You see? She acknowledges her deficiency. I'm not finished, Lyra said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. I am weak by your standards. But Taeyang and Nari taught me something. They taught me that strength comes in different forms. I can fix ship engines. I can solve problems. I can learn. These are things my family never valued because they didn't involve fighting. She looked at Taeyang, drawing courage from his encouraging nod. Taeyang saved me when no one else would. He gave me food when I was starving. He gave me a bed when I had nowhere to sleep. He taught me my worth isn't measured by combat. And Nari showed me that my mind matters, that I can contribute even if my body isn't perfect. Sentiment, Thex said dismissively. Emotion. This is exactly why humans are unfit to raise Velari young. They fill her head with false worth. Is it false? Lyra asked, turning to face him directly. Is kindness false? Is learning false? Is being valued as a person false? Because if those things are false, then I don't want to be Velari anymore. Gasps echoed through the chamber. To reject one's own species was unthinkable. I want to stay with Taeyang, Lyra continued, her voice growing stronger. He's more of a father to me in 2 months than my birth family ever was. If this council forces me back to Velari space, you're not saving me. You're sending me to die. Maybe not right away, but eventually. Because I'll always be defective to them. I'll always be worthless. Your family has arranged proper care, Thex argued. They arranged to hide me, Lyra shot back. To put me somewhere I can't embarrass them anymore. That's not care. That's shame management. The lead counselor held up a hand for silence. The child makes a compelling argument. She is a child, Thex said. She doesn't understand the implications of rejecting her culture, her heritage. She understands perfectly, Jiwon interrupted. She understands that her birth family values reputation over her life. She understands that Taeyang Kim values her as a person. That seems like a very clear understanding to me. The council deliberated in private for an hour. When they returned, the lead counselor's expression was grave. This is a difficult decision. We recognize both the Velari right to cultural sovereignty and the child's right to safety and well-being. Therefore, we rule as follows. Lyra held her breath. Taeyang Kim may proceed with adoption, but with conditions. Lyra will remain in his custody under council observation until she reaches Velari adulthood at age 16. At that time, The cold metal floor of Nexus Station pressed against Lyra's thin body as she watched her family's ship grow smaller in the viewport. The blue lights of the engines flickered once, then twice, and then disappeared into the darkness of space. She pressed her hand against the thick glass, her purple skin looking almost gray in the dim light of the lower docking bay. She was alone. Lyra pulled her knees to her chest and wrapped her arms around them. She had known this day would come. Her mother's eyes had grown colder each passing month. Her father stopped looking at her altogether. Her siblings pretended she didn't exist. In Velari culture, weakness was the greatest shame, and Lyra was weak. Her muscles didn't grow like other Velari children. She couldn't lift the training weights. She couldn't run fast enough or fight hard enough. Defective, her mother had called her. A burden we can no longer carry. They had brought her to Nexus Station under the pretense of a trading mission. Lyra had believed them, hopeful that maybe this trip would be different. Maybe they would finally see her worth. Instead, her father had walked her to this abandoned corner of the station, pressed a small cloth bag into her hands, and left without a word. The bag contained 3 protein bars and nothing else. Hours passed. The station hummed with life above her, but down here in the forgotten docking bays, only the sound of machinery filled the air. Lyra's stomach growled. She opened the bag and stared at the protein bars. If she ate one now, she would only have 2 left. She didn't know when she would get more food. She closed the bag. A loud clang echoed through the bay. Lyra's head snapped up. A cargo ship was landing on the platform nearby, its engines sending waves of hot air across the metal floor. The ship was old but well-maintained, with earth markings on its hull. Humans. Lyra had never seen a human up close before. The Velari considered them soft, weak creatures who relied on technology instead of strength. The cargo ramp lowered with a hiss. 2 figures emerged. The first was a man with dark hair and kind eyes. He wore a worn pilot's jacket and carried a data pad. Behind him came a woman with short hair and grease stains on her hands. They were speaking to each other in a language Lyra didn't understand. "Check the port thruster again," the man said to the woman. "It was making that noise during landing." The woman nodded. "I'll run diagnostics. You handle the cargo manifest with station control." The man walked toward the main terminal, but something made him pause. He turned his head, looking directly at the corner where Lyra hid. She froze. His eyes narrowed, and he started walking toward her. Lyra scrambled backward, her heart pounding. She had heard stories about humans, about their strange customs and unpredictable nature. She didn't know what to expect. The man stopped a few feet away and crouched down. "Hey there," he said in Galactic Common, the universal language most species used for trade. His accent was strange but understandable. "Are you okay?" Lyra didn't answer. She pressed herself against the wall, making herself as small as possible. The man's expression softened. He slowly reached into his jacket pocket and Lyra flinched. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out a wrapped bar. A ration pack. Human food. "You look hungry," he said gently, setting the bar on the ground between them. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." Lyra stared at the food. Her stomach cramped with hunger, but she didn't move. This could be a trick. The Velari taught that kindness was always a trap, a way to expose weakness so it could be exploited. The man stood up slowly. "I'll leave it here for you. Take it if you want." He started to walk away. "Wait!" Lyra's voice came out as a whisper. She hadn't spoken in so long that her throat felt rough. The man turned back. "Yes? Why?" Lyra asked in broken Galactic Common. "Why give food?" He tilted his head, looking confused by the question. "Because you need it. You're a kid and you're alone. That's reason enough." The woman appeared from behind the ship, wiping her hands on a cloth. "Taeyang, what's going on?" She spotted Lyra and stopped. "Oh, Taeyang, that must be his name," gestured toward Lyra. "Found her hiding here. She looks like she's been here a while." The woman Nari walked closer and studied Lyra with sharp eyes. "Velari." Young one, too? Where's your family, kid? Lyra looked down at her hands. Gone. Gone where? Nari asked. Just gone. Lyra's voice cracked. They left me. Taeyang and Nari exchanged looks. Taeyang knelt again, this time closer. Your family abandoned you here? On the station? Lyra nodded. That's illegal, Nari said, but her voice lacked conviction. Not under Velari law, Taeyang replied quietly. I've heard about this. Their culture allows it if a child is deemed unfit. That's barbaric, Nari muttered. Lyra felt shame burn through her chest. Even these strangers could see how worthless she was. Of course, they would think it was barbaric that her family had wasted so much time on her, before finally making the right choice. But then Taeyang did something unexpected. He sat down on the cold floor next to her, right there in the dirt and grime of the docking bay. What's your name? He asked. Lyra. I'm Taeyang. That's Nari. We run cargo between the Earth colonies. He picked up the ration bar he had left and held it out again. Lyra, when was the last time you ate? Yesterday morning. It had actually been longer, but she didn't want to seem too pathetic. Yesterday? Nari's voice rose. Taeyang, we can't just leave her here. I know, he said softly. He looked at Lyra. Do you have anywhere to go? Anyone who can help you? Lyra shook her head. She had no one. Nexus Station was massive, filled with thousands of aliens from hundreds of species. She could try to survive in the lower levels, scavenging and hiding. Many abandoned children did that. Most didn't last long. Taeyang stood up and brushed off his pants. He looked at Nari again, and something passed between them without words. Nari sighed and shook her head, but there was a small smile on her face. You're really going to do this, aren't you? Nari asked. We have extra space in the crew quarters, Taeyang said, and we're heading back to the colonies anyway. She could come with us, at least until we figure something out. Regulations can be dealt with later. Taeyang turned back to Lyra. How would you feel about leaving this station? We can take you somewhere safer. Maybe find you help. Lyra looked up at him, searching his face for the deception, the trap, the cruelty that must be hiding behind his kind words. But all she saw was genuine concern. It made no sense. He was human, a species the Velari considered weak and overly emotional. And yet here he was, offering help to a stranger. To a worthless Velari child, why would you help me? Lyra asked. You don't know me. Taeyang smiled, and it reached his eyes. Because someone should, and because no kid deserves to be left alone in a place like this. He extended his hand. What do you say, Lyra? Want to see what the morning star looks like? Lyra stared at his hand for a long moment. This went against everything she had been taught. Trust was for the strong. The weak survived by staying invisible, by never relying on anyone. But she was so tired of being alone, so tired of being afraid. Slowly, Lyra reached out and placed her small hand in his. His grip was warm and steady. He helped her to her feet. Let's get you some real food, Nari said, her voice softer than before, and probably a shower too. No offense, kid, but you smell like engine grease and desperation. Despite everything, Lyra felt a small, unfamiliar sensation in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. Hope. She was feeling hope. As they walked toward the morning star, Lyra glanced back one last time at the viewport where she had watched her family leave. Then she turned away and followed the two humans into their ship, into something that might possibly be a second chance. The morning star was nothing like Lyra had expected. The Velari ships she had known were cold, efficient, built only for function. This human vessel was different. The walls were painted warm colors. Pictures hung in the corridors. Someone had put a small plant in a pot near the control room. It made no sense. Plants didn't help a ship fly faster or fight better. Yet there it was, green and alive. Nari showed Lyra to a small room. This is usually for storage, but we can clear it out for you. There's a bed at least. Better than a docking bay floor. Lyra stood in the doorway, uncertain. Where should I sleep? Nari frowned. In the bed. Where else? I thought. The cargo hold. I don't want to take space. The cargo hold? Nari's expression shifted to something Lyra couldn't read. Kid, you're not cargo. You're a person. You sleep in a bed like everyone else on this ship. It was such a strange concept. On Velari ships, status determined everything. The weak ate last, slept in the worst places, used what the strong didn't want. But here was this human woman, treating Lyra like she deserved comfort, like she mattered. "I'll get you some clean clothes," Nari said, leaving before Lyra could protest. Alone in the room, Lyra sat carefully on the edge of the bed. It was soft, too soft. She slid down to sit on the floor instead. The floor felt safer, more familiar. This was where she belonged. The ship's engines hummed to life. They were leaving Nexus Station. Lyra felt the familiar lurch of takeoff, then the smooth glide as they entered open space. She was really doing this. She was leaving with complete strangers. Humans she had just met. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, dangerous, stupid. But what choice did she have? Taeyang found her an hour later, still sitting on the floor. He carried a tray with food. "Dinner time." "Nari made extra." He set the tray on the small desk. "Why are you on the floor?" "This is where I should be. Lyra, you can sit wherever you want." "The bed is for you," she looked up at him. "I don't understand you. Either of you. Why are you being kind? What do you want from me?" Taeyang sat down cross-legged on the floor across from her, making himself the same height. "We don't want anything from you. We're being kind because that's what you do for someone who needs help. It's not complicated." "Everything is complicated," Lyra said quietly. "Kindness always has a price. Not with us." Taeyang pushed the tray closer to her. "Eat, no price, no expectations. Just food because you're hungry." The food smelled amazing. Lyra's stomach twisted with need, but she hesitated. In Velari culture, accepting food meant accepting obligation. Debt. She would owe them. "If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it," Taeyang said, misunderstanding her hesitation. "I know human food is different from Velari food. We'll try to get supplies that work better for you at the next station." "You would do that? Change what you buy for me?" "Of course. You're part of the crew now. Temporarily, at least, part of the crew." The words felt foreign. Lyra had never been part of anything except a burden. Over the next few days, life on the Morning Star fell into a rhythm. Taeyang tried to include her in meals, but Lyra insisted on eating alone. She slept on the floor despite their protests. She spoke only when asked direct questions. Trust was not something she could give easily, but she watched them. She watched how Taeyang and Nari worked together, how they teased each other but never with real cruelty. She watched how they maintained the ship, and slowly, her curiosity grew stronger than her fear. One afternoon, she found Nari in the engine room, cursing at a panel of wires. "Stupid connector thinks it's smarter than me," Nari muttered. Lyra stood in the doorway watching. The problem was obvious to her. The polarity was reversed on the third connection. She knew this because Velari ships use similar systems, and she had spent hours studying them when no one wanted her around. "You could switch the red and blue wire," Lyra said quietly. Nari turned, surprised. "What?" "The third connection. The polarity is wrong. Red and blue are reversed." Nari looked at the panel, then at Lyra, then back at the panel. She made the switch. The panel lit up green. "Well, I'll be damned." "How did you know that?" Lyra shrugged. "I watched the engineers on my family's ship. I wasn't allowed to help, but I could watch." "Weren't allowed." Nari sat back on her heels. "Why not?" "Because I was weak. Weak Velari don't do important work." Nari's jaw tightened. "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Your body's strength has nothing to do with your brain." She gestured to the engine. "You see anything else wrong in here?" Lyra stepped closer, examining the systems. She pointed out 3 more issues, minor things, but things that would cause problems eventually. Nari listened to every word, then started making the fixes. "You're good at this," Nari said. "Really good. How much do you know about ship systems?" "A lot, I think. I read manuals when I could. Studied diagrams. Can you read human standard technical language?" Lyra shook her head. "Only Galactic Common and Velari." "Well," Nari said, a smile forming, "maybe I could teach you. If you're going to be on this ship, might as well learn something useful. Better than sitting alone in your room." It was the first time anyone had offered to teach Lyra anything. Her heart beat faster. "You would teach me?" "Sure, why not? I could use someone who actually understands this stuff. Taeyang's great at flying, but he's useless with engines." Nari stood up and brushed off her hands. "Come on, let's start with basic human technical terms." Over the following weeks, Lyra spent more time in the engine room. Nari taught her to read human technical manuals. She learned the names of parts in multiple languages. Her mind absorbed information like a dry sponge finally finding water. For the first time in her life, someone valued what she could do instead of focusing on what she couldn't. Taeyang noticed the change. "She's smiling more," he told Nari one evening when they thought Lyra was asleep. "I saw her actually smile today when she figured out that power coupling problem." "She's brilliant," Nari replied. "Absolutely brilliant. It makes me sick thinking about how her people wasted that. We need to figure out what to do long term. We can't keep her on the ship forever. She needs stability, education, medical care." "I know. But every time I think about sending her away, She's starting to trust us, Taeyang. What if the next place is worse?" Their conversation was interrupted by the ship's alarm. Someone was hailing them on the emergency channel. Taeyang ran to the control room with Nari close behind. Lyra crept out of her room, her heart pounding. On the view screen appeared a Veilari face. Not just any Veilari, a hunter, marked with the scars of someone who tracked people for a living. Lyra's blood went cold. "This is Riva," the Veilari said in her harsh voice. "I'm looking for a young Veilari female. I have reason to believe she's on your vessel." Taeyang kept his expression neutral. "This is a private cargo ship. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Don't play games with me, human. The child's family has hired me to retrieve her. They have legal rights." "Legal rights?" Nari's voice was sharp. "They abandoned her?" "That is their right under Veilari law. Now they wish to correct their decision. They want the child placed on a colony world where she will be cared for." Lyra felt her legs weaken. They didn't want her back. They wanted her gone, properly gone, somewhere she couldn't embarrass them. Somewhere no one would know they had produced a defective child. Taeyang glanced back and saw Lyra in the doorway. His eyes softened, then hardened as he turned back to Riva. "The child stays with us. You have no claim to her, human. I will board your ship at the next port. If you refuse to hand her over, I will involve the authorities. This could become a diplomatic incident." "Let it," Taeyang said. "I'm not handing over a child to people who abandoned her." Riva's eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake. This is Veilari business. Your species should not interfere. She's on my ship. That makes it my business." Taeyang cut the connection. Silence filled the control room. Lyra stood frozen, unable to process what had just happened. This human man had just challenged a Veilari hunter for her. Someone worthless. Taeyang turned to face her fully. "Lyra, I need to ask you something important. Do you want to go back?" "To your people?" "No." The word burst from her before she could stop it. "No, please. I don't want to go." "Then you won't," Taeyang said firmly. "We'll figure this out. There has to be a legal way to protect you." Nari was already pulling up information on her data pad. "Earth has guardianship laws. If we can get to an Earth colony before Riva catches up, we might be able to file papers." "Will it work?" Lyra asked, her voice small. "I don't know," Taeyang admitted. "But I promise you this, I'm not giving up without a fight. You deserve better than being thrown away." Lyra looked at these two humans who barely knew her, who were willing to risk diplomatic problems for a child who wasn't even their species. Something broke inside her chest. Some wall she had built to protect herself. Tears started falling and she couldn't stop them. Veilari didn't cry. Crying was weakness, but maybe with humans weakness was okay. Taeyang crossed the room and knelt beside her. "Hey, it's all right. We've got you." For the first time since boarding the Morning Star, Lyra let herself be comforted. She let Taeyang pull her into a gentle hug. She let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, someone actually cared if she lived or died. The Morning Star changed course, setting coordinates for the nearest Earth colony.